One-on-one with President Biden, ABC News exclusive. So this is the new-ish interview with Joe Biden from George Stephanopoulos. This is part of Biden's attempt to rehabilitate his image after that absolutely horrific debate performance last week. And I watched like the first 5-ish minutes of this, and I can say, at least within those 5 minutes, it did not quell any of the concerns I have with Biden's behavior, but I don't think there was anything that could have qualmed my fears regarding Joe Biden at this point. One, I just don't agree with his policy positions. But two, I've been following Joe Biden for a number of years now, going back into the Obama presidency, obviously. And looking at who he was then, looking at who he is now, it is an absolute night and day difference. I'm sure we've all seen little comparisons back and forth showing current Biden versus the old Biden. I'll do that too real quick because I have another video pulled up kind of showing who he was a number of years ago compared to who he is now. And it's just, I will vote for Joe Biden in November. I will vote for whoever is opposite of the ticket of Trump. But I don't think he's in the best position to beat Trump. And I truly think he is just not have all of his mental faculties with him at this point. Now, I guess it might beg the question, why would I vote for Joe Biden if he clearly has like legitimate mental deficiencies currently? And it's because a president isn't just a singular entity. They are a cabinet. They are, appointments that they appoint. They are functionally, in a lot of ways, a rubber stamp for the policy positions of the party in power. And the party in power under Biden is the Democrats. And he basically will capitulate to whatever is the current party line, basically. Do I wish that the president had all of their mental faculties? I do. I don't think we get that with Trump. I definitely don't think we get that with Biden. So neither are great, really. But either way, someone's going to rubber stamp policy, and I want the person who will rubber stamp the leftmost viable policy, I guess. But I've been following this debacle post-debate pretty closely. The funniest thing for me, the funniest and like saddest and most frustrating thing coming from like the Democrat, like liberal side, is the amount of fucking copium that I'm seeing coming from these guys. The amount of, it was just a bad night, he just has a stutter, like these types of talking points, right, that they've been talking about with Biden for a while, like it's just a stutter, he just had a bad night, which is sort of what he is claiming and what like the Democratic Party line is claiming, like, oh, it was just a bad night, nothing super serious going on, just a bad night. I sincerely don't think that's the case. And it's not because I hate Joe Biden. I do hate Joe Biden, but that's not why I think that's the case. I'm just saying what my eyes see, and that is severely declining mental faculties. So anyway, let's jump into the interview and let's see where it goes.
From ABC News, a special edition of This Week. President Joe Biden, his first television interview since the debate. The news-making exclusive, now reporting from Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, so for a little bit more context, what I've been hearing from my sources, no, just the news, is that the Democrats behind the scenes are legitimately in panic mode, and they need to see Biden look good. Off the cuff, no like teleprompter, and the public needs to see this, and the public needs to react positively to it. This is what will get the donors happy, and the donors are ultimately who obviously controls who is the president, who is the nominee, etc. This is a damage control campaign. Now, some news came out earlier today that maybe I'll get to in this same video. It's this. So this came out today. Biden aides provided questions in advance for his radio interviews. A radio host told CNN that she received a list of 8 questions to approve before one of the president's interviews on Wednesday. So this is not going to look good for Biden, who is in extreme damage control mode today, like this week. President Biden's campaign has scheduled interviews with the hosts of 2 radio programs with large black followings as part of a broader effort to reassure Americans of his mental fitness. Well, this sure ain't going to help. Feeding the questions so that the president doesn't have to respond off the cuff, i.e. his answers were like pre-approved and he like memorized them, or at least the main talking points in advance. Not a good look for his ability to act off the cuff, which is what we need to see right now, that he is not just a walking teleprompter. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's finally get to the actual interview. We're going to talk a lot more about this stuff, I'm sure.
George Stephanopoulos.
Good evening from Madison, Wisconsin for a special edition of This Week, the first broadcast interview with President Biden since last week's debate. Earlier this afternoon, we taped the 22-minute interview. There are no cuts, no edits. We have not touched it. At this pivotal moment in the presidential campaign, here it is.
So, off of that, I will say I have been seeing more like coping from liberals on Twitter. There's a pretty like semi-viral tweet thread from someone who said they were like an audio engineer saying that Biden's audio in this interview was edited to make it sound worse than it actually is. That is, okay, one, sounds like complete QAnon level conspiracy bullshit in my opinion. I really, sincerely, as much as I'm willing to criticize, you know, news networks today, I really don't think they would do something like that, especially like, I don't fucking know. Aren't these ABC News meant to be ostensibly liberal? I know that they're really not, and they all cater to neoliberalism and conservatism in general, but doesn't matter. Point is, the idea that they're specifically editing Biden's audio to make it sound worse, to hurt him or help Trump, or I don't know what the logic would be, try to get a different nominee? Maybe if we're going with the like positive liberal angle, I don't know. I think that is abso-fucking-lutely absurd, manic coping. And two, it's not about how he sounds. It's about what he's saying, how he's saying it, his diction, his rhetoric, his ability to form a complete sentence. That's the fucking problem. I don't care that he sounds frail or old. That's not really my problem. He definitely does. And, you know, it coincides with the main problem, which is he sounds incoherent. But I don't think that that's remotely the problem, is that he sounds like the audio sounds bad. It's that the things he is saying and how he's saying it is bad.
Mr. President, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the debate. You and your team have said you had a bad night, but
Sure did.
But your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You know, you say you were exhausted.
Yeah, that's another, like, it's coping all the way down. Like, he was exhausted. He was, like, flying to and from Europe, but he had, like a 8-day layover or something in Camp David in between his trips and this debate. And so the idea that it was because he was exhausted, we all heard, like, just, I don't know if it was during the debate, like, as the debate started, like, the DNC or whoever leaked to the press that Biden had a cold, which to me seemed like even more coping.
Exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days.
I mean, just look at his face. He's doing the exact same face we saw in the debate, okay? This, like, I don't know. I will say this. I've never really known anyone with, like, severely declining mental faculties like this, you know, dementia, Alzheimer's. I haven't really known anyone closely with any of those, so I can't speak for my personal experience. I'm certainly not a medical professional, so I really don't want to, you know, say what, you know, I think it is or whatever. But you just can't deny, you know, seeing him who he is now and seeing him who he was at the start of his presidency when he was running last time. And even then, there were signs and like, people pointed to who he was in like 2020 and who he was in like the Obama administration. You know what I mean? And there were differences there. But you look at stuff from 2020, 2021, and it seems, I mean, especially comparatively, okay.
In Camp David, why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked if they did a COVID test because they were trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
And did you ever...
Did he get these questions fed to him as well? That is an honest question that I have, because we now know there is direct precedent. This broke with the New York Times just hours ago. So did he get these questions? I don't want to be like, a speech analyst or whatever the fuck, but the response sounded canned to me, I guess.
Watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
Well, I would debate after.
I just
Hold
had
on.
a really bad cold.
And did you ever watch the debate afterwards?
I don't think I did, no.
We are cooked. Did you watch the debate afterwards? No, I don't think I did. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, an NFL wide receiver drops a catch and he's watching tape, like, on the sidelines immediately, being told what he needs to do better to not fuck up next time. Meanwhile, this guy made the biggest fuck up of his, I don't know, entire presidency, probably? I mean, like, obviously, like, genocide is worse. Like, I know all that, okay? You know what I mean. And he didn't even review the film? He didn't sit with his advisors to review the fucking film? Now, I get the president's busy or whatever the fuck, but you're not just president at this point. You're campaigning to be president again. You would certainly think one of the campaign functions would be to review the most fucking devastating debate in our lifetimes. But I guess not. Or he doesn't remember. He said he doesn't think so. So he may have watched it, and he doesn't remember, I guess. I don't know what's worse. Well, I guess I do know what's worse, but whether he didn't watch it or he doesn't remember watching it. Both are pretty bad. But I think if he doesn't remember, that's probably worse. And people have been talking about this too, but like he's got this like spray tan now. Like they're trying to make him look more youthful or lively. I don't know. But it just looks more Trumpian to me. Like it looks like the exact spray tan Trump gets.
Well, what I want to get at is what were your experiences?
He's just got this 1,000-yard stare, dude. He does not look like he's all there anymore. I don't know. For like liberals and like Democrats on like Twitter and stuff that I'm seeing like justify this as, I don't know, he had a bad day. He's just a little bit old. It's just a stutter. Like, I really just don't see that. It really genuinely, as close to anything that I've seen in my entire time, like paying attention to politics, seems like an emperor has no clothes moment. I mean, we saw a lot of that stuff with Trump for sure, but for something this specific and this obvious, like trying to say this is anything other than a severe decline in his mental faculties feels like you're either lying to yourself because you're, I don't know, you love Biden or something, or you're lying to all of us, which is extremely bad if you're being honest about politics, which within politics we should be honest, in my opinion. And Biden should be honest, and his campaign should be honest, and he should fucking step aside, or at least step down and let like the DNC pick the next nominee at the convention. I don't know.
As you were going through the debate, did you know how badly it was going?
Yeah, look, the whole way I prepared, nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine. I prepared what I usually would do, sitting down, as I did come back with foreign leaders or the National Security Council, for explicit detail. And I realized about partway through that, I get quoted, the New York Times had me down at 10 points before the debate, 9 now, or whatever the hell it is. The fact of the matter is that what I looked at is that he also lied 28 times. I mean, the way the debate ran, not my fault, nobody else's fault. No one else's fault.
But it seemed like you were having trouble from
Bro, please, if you're a liberal watching this, a Democrat fan or whatever, okay, watch that. Now let's cut to 2017 Biden. Biden just before Trump takes office, January 5th, 2017.
With transition, not in all caps, and an
Grow
exclamation
up,
point.
Donald. Grow up. Time to be an adult. You're president. You got to do something. Show us what you have. You're going to propose it in legislation. We're going to get to debate it. Let the public decide. Let them vote in Congress. Let's see what happens. It's going to be much clearer what he's for and against and what we're for and against.
Like, he's moving his head, he's moving his eyes, he talks and sounds like a human being and not a corpse 1 second away from being a real corpse. You know what I mean?
Now that it's going to get down to actually discussing in detail
He's got this weird, like, demon smile, though, still.
these issues that affect people's lives.
Now, how can you see that and then also see what's going on here and say it's just
At a campaign event in Wisconsin this afternoon, President Joe...
Sorry about that. How can you see what you just saw and then see this and go, everything's fine, this is normal? I don't know. Like I said, I will vote for him in November. I will vote for whoever is against the Republican nominee in November, probably Donald Trump. But you can't tell me this is not something's wrong. How can you not see it? I don't think there's anyone who can't see it. This is a straight up Emperor has no clothes scenario. We all see it. So, like, pretending you don't just doesn't help anyone, really.
from the first question in, even before he spoke.
He's just got this look like he's lost. He's just like, he just looks lost.
Well, I just had a bad night. You've had some bad interviews once in a while. I can't remember any, but I'm sure you did.
I've had plenty.
Like, George, like, looks and moves like a real human. Biden looks like there's something wrong, a medical condition. I'm sorry to say. I'm not trying to be crass. I'm not trying to be mean. He's a fucking horrible demon who deserves to, burn in hell for all of eternity. But all that aside, it just looks like there's a fucking medical condition with the president's fucking brain, okay?
I guess the question, the problem is here for a lot of Americans watching, as you've said, going back to 2020, watch me, to people who are concerned about your age. And, 50 million Americans watched that debate. It seemed to confirm fears they already had.
Well, look, after that debate, I did 10 major events in a row, including until 2 o'clock in the morning after that debate. I did events in North Carolina. I did events in Georgia.
Did he get, like, Botox or something in his eyes that's kind of making it, like, his whole face look, like, way tighter? Like, he's, like, his eyes are doing this, like, weird, they got this, like, weird tightness to them. I don't know how to explain it.
Events like this today, large crowds, overwhelming response, no slipping. And so I just had...
Yeah, brother, because you're reading off a teleprompter. We know you can read. We know you can answer questions when provided in advance, right? That's not what is in question here. It's off the cuff, no questions provided in advance. How do you look? And even in this scenario, if, like, the questions weren't provided in advance, Biden still does not look fit to me. He does not look like someone capable of doing a job as important as the presidency of the United States, frankly.
I had a bad night. I don't know why.
And how quickly did it come to you that you were having that bad night?
Well, it came to me as having a bad night when I realized that even when I was answering a question, even though they turned his mic off, he was still shouting. And I let it distract me. I'm not blaming it on that. But I realized that I just wasn't...
He keeps saying that I'm not blaming it. I'm not blaming it on anything but me. You can tell that was something that he was fed, right? That was like, they were told him, Biden, make sure you take full responsibility of it. That's going to be important. Anytime you try and scoot the blame, make sure you say it was your fault.
Control.
But part of the other concern is that this seems to have fit into a pattern of decline that has been reported on recently. New York Times had a headline on July 2nd, Biden's lapses are said to be increasingly common and worrisome. Here's what they wrote. People who have spent time with President Biden over the last few months or so said the lapses appear to have grown more frequent, more pronounced, and after Thursday's debate, more worrisome. By many accounts, as evidenced by video footage, observation, and interviews, Mr. Biden is not the same today as he was even when he took office 3.5 years ago. Similar reporting in the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal.
That is absolutely fucking damning. That really should be the nail in the coffin for Joe Biden's presidency. Or rather, his candidacy. This feels like the New York Times, the Washington Post, as I think you just said, going absolutely nuclear here. And it's crazy how little of an effect it seems to have had. Like, Biden's come out and said, I'm running, Jack, don't worry, 100%. I'm running, no malarkey, I'm running, right? Despite this, a part of me is still, based on the things I've been hearing from the news and whatnot, it depends on how next week goes. I think next week, the week of July 8th through the whatever, that's going to be the defining moment of, is he going to prove to the donors he's going to be the guy to stay in office and have the best potential to beat Trump. Obviously, there is an incumbency boost. Incumbents typically do well no matter what, but there are exceptions to that. For example, we saw Trump lose as the incumbent in 2020.
Are you the same man today that you were when you took office 3.5 years ago?
In terms of successes, yes.
In terms of successes, again, this feels... It maybe it didn't happen, but this feels like he got the questions in advance. Like, this feels like such a quick response to this, and he's like so ready to answer this next question. Like, this feels to me very coached. Now, no proof of that. I'm saying strictly from kind of what I'm seeing. And again, even if it wasn't coached, it still doesn't look good on Biden. He still looks terrible here, in my opinion. But the question was, like, are you still have the same capabilities of when you took office? And he's like, in terms of what I accomplished, yes. So he's like, not saying my brain is in the same spot, but what I accomplished, which is not the answer we want to this particular line of questioning.
I also was the guy who put together a peace plan for the Middle East that may be coming to fruition.
What? This is fucking news to me. Biden, he's got a peace plan to create peace in the Middle East coming? Did it come to him in a dream? What the fuck is this peace plan?
I was also the guy that expanded NATO. I was also the guy that grew the economy. All the individual things that were done were ideas I had or I fulfilled. I moved on. And so, for example, well, that was true then. What's Biden done lately? Today, just announced 200,000 new jobs. We're moving in a direction that no one's ever taken on. I know you know this from the days in the government. I took on Big Pharma. I beat them. No one said I could beat them.
Why? He's looking like Trump, and he's fucking talking like Trump too. He's like, no one said I could beat them. No one knew healthcare would be this complicated. He's like talking like Trump now as well. Like, everything's fucking devolving into Trumpisms, and I fucking hate it.
I took on all the things we said we got done. We were told we couldn't get done. And part of it is what I said when I ran was I wanted to do three things. Restore some decency to the office. Restore some support for the middle class instead of trickle-down economics built from the middle out and the bottom up. The way the world.
I fucking wish, dude. As fucking if, you fucking ghoul. God, fuck that shit, man. Like, Republicans will be like, no, trickle-down economics is good and we got to enact these policies. Democrats today are like, no, trickle-down economics is bad. But then they will still just do the trickle-down economics. You know what I mean?
Healthy still do fine, everyone does better, and unite the country.
But what has all that work over the last 3.5 years cost you physically, mentally, emotionally?
George is trying, dude, to be like, are you sure you're okay, though? And Biden's like, look, I accomplished this and that, Jack, all right? And George is like, are you sure you're okay? And Biden's like, look, I created NATO or whatever the fuck. And George is like, are you sure you're fit for office still, bud?
Well, I just think it cost me a really bad night, a bad run. But, you know, George, I'm optimistic about this country. I don't think we're a country of losers, it reports out. I don't think America's in tough shape. I think America's on the cusp of breaking through in so many incredible opportunities.
Biden.exe has stopped working, and it just loaded it's that chip being taken out meme with the new chip put in.
This next term, I'm going to make sure we have straighten out the tax system. I'm going to make sure we're in a situation where we have health care for all people, where we're in a position where we have.
I hate this fucking progressive posturing. We're going to have healthcare for everybody. We're going to straighten out the tax system, whatever the fuck that means. And then never really making a big attempt to do so, not fucking whipping your Congress members and senators to do it. Not like, you know, whipping in the like congressional terms, like literally taking out a fucking whip and beating the shit out of Nancy Pelosi's giant fucking milkers until we get fucking universal health care. That is what the president should be doing. But Democrats suck so fucking much that we instead get nothing.
Have child care and elder care, free up, and all these things. The one thing I'm proudest of is, remember when my economic plan was put forward?
I wish Joe Biden would fight for these things, but he fucking doesn't.
A lot of the mainstream economists said it's not going to work. Well, guess what? You now have 16 Nobel laureates, 16 of them in economics, saying that Biden's next term would be, based on what he wants to do, enormous success. Trump's plan would cause a recession, would significantly increase inflation. I've made great progress, and that's what I plan on doing, and we can do this.
I understand that, and I'm not disputing that. What I'm asking you is about your personal situation. Do you dispute that there have been more lapses, especially in the last several months?
Can I run the 110 flat? No, but I'm still in good shape.
Are you more frail?
No.
I know you spoke.
Keep my schedule.
I know you spoke with your doctor after the debate. What did he say?
He said, he just looked at me and said, you're exhausted. I said, look, I have medical doctors travel me everywhere, every president does, as you know. Medical doctors, some of the best in the world, travel me everywhere I go. I have an ongoing assessment of what I'm doing. They don't hesitate to tell me.
Notice how he's holding this, like, pen? There's no, like, notepad. Like, there's no reason for him to take notes or anything, right? My girlfriend brought up to me that, like, it is common for people with, you know, something like dementia or whatever, Alzheimer's, to use, like, a pen to kind of ground yourself. I don't know. That feels, like, conspiratorial from, like, the other perspective, so I don't really want to dwell on that too much, but it is something she brought up while we were watching, like, a couple clips of this earlier today.
If they think there's something wrong.
I know you said you have an ongoing assessment. Have you had a full neurological and cognitive evaluation?
I get a full neurological test every day with me. And I've had a full physical. I had, you know, I mean, I've been at Walter Reed for my physicals. I mean, yes, the answer is.
I know your doctor said he consulted with a neurologist. I guess I'm asking a slightly different question. Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No, no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Dog. The public is saying you have to. If nothing is wrong, do the fucking test. Do it on camera. Show us your open ear canal so we know there's no one feeding you the answers. and show us that you can do this shit, man. Come on. Stop dicking us around.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do. You know, not only...
Yeah, bro. Fine, this is like a non-answer, obviously, but even then, the public is saying, bro, we're looking at you. We're testing. If this is the test, you're fucking failing. So go take a real test to try and, you know, settle our worries.
Not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world. And that's not how it sounds like hyperbole. But we are the essential nation in the world. Madeleine Albright was right. And every single day, for example, today, before I come out here, I'm on the phone with the Prime Minister of, well, anyway, I shouldn't get into detail, but with Netanyahu. I'm on the phone with the new Prime Minister of England. I'm working on what we're doing with regard to, in Europe, with regard to expansion of NATO and whether it's going to stick. I'm taking on Putin. I mean, every day, there's no day I go through, there are not those decisions I have to make every single day.
And you have been doing that, and the American people have been watching, yet their concerns about your age and your health are growing. So that's why I'm asking, to reassure them, would you be...
He's such a, you know, composite journalist or whatever, right? That intentional pause before your health, when he's really saying, you sound like your brain has transmogrified into mashed potatoes. But you can't obviously say that because, you know, aesthetics matter or whatever.
Be willing to have the independent medical evaluation?
Watch me there's a lot of time left in this campaign. It's over 125 days.
So the
Make a decision.
the right answer right now is no, you don't want to do that right
No,
now.
I've already done it.
You talked a lot about your successes at the beginning of this interview, and I don't want to dispute that. I don't want to debate that. But as you know, elections are about the future, not the past. They're about tomorrow, not yesterday. And the question on so many people's minds right now is, can you serve effectively for the next 4 years?
George, I'm the guy that put NATO together, the future. No one thought I could expand it. I'm the guy that shut Putin down. No one thought could happen. I'm the guy that put together a South Pacific initiative with AUKUS.
Does Biden think he created NATO? That is a legitimate question that I have at this point.
I'm the guy that got 50 nations, out, not only in Europe, outside of Europe as well, to help Ukraine. I'm the guy that got Japanese to expand their budget. So, I mean, and for example, when I decided we used to have 40% of the computer chip in it. We invented the chip, that little chip for the computer chip. It's in everything from cell phone to weapons. And so we used to have 40%, we're down to virtually nothing. So I get in the plane against the advice of everybody, and I fly to South Korea. I convinced them to invest in the United States billions of dollars. Now we have tens of billions of dollars being invested.
What's going on? It's his eyes, man, to me. It's his eyes through and through. Is it Botox? Is it Alzheimer's? Is it some other degenerative disease? But it's his eyes to where they're just like, I can't even recreate it. Like they're something's fucking wrong, okay? Let's look at this again.
Time to be an adult. You're president. You got...
Grow up. Time to be an adult. You're president. For some reason, you know, all this time has passed, and that quote applied to the current president somehow works in some certain way. You're the president. Grow up. Step down. It's time. But just look at his eyes, right? Like,
Got to do something. Show us what you have. You're going to propose it in legislation. We're going to...
he's blinking. He's moving his head. It doesn't look like there's something horrifically wrong. You know what I mean? Like, look at this shit, dude. Like, what the fuck are we doing here, man? I am genuinely speechless how, I don't know, the libs are pretending to not see this or genuinely don't see this. I don't know.
In the United States, making us back in a position where we're going to own that industry again. We have, I mean, I just, anyway.
He just completely forgot what he was talking about.
We get to debate it. Let the public decide. Let them vote in Congress. Let's see what happens. It's going to be much clearer what he's for and against and what we're for and against now that it's going to get down to actually discussing in detail these issues that affect people's lives.
I don't want to take too much credit. I have a great staff.
But I guess my point is all that takes a toll. Do you have the mental and physical capacity to do it for another 4 years?
I believe so. I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I did. Look, I'm running again because I think I understand best what has to be done to take this nation to a completely new level. We're on our way.
What?
We're on our way. And look, the decision recently made by the Supreme Court on immunity, you know, the next president of the United States, it's not just about whether he or she knows what they're doing. It's not about a conglomerate of people making decisions. It's about the character of the president. The character of the president is going to determine whether or not this Constitution is employed the right way.
I hate the, like, I don't know how you want to describe it. This is something that liberals do. It's like civility politics. I just don't like it.
Let me ask you a tougher, more personal question. Are you sure you're being honest with yourself when you say you have the mental and physical capacity to serve another 4 years?
Damn, that is a pretty striking question. Are you being honest with yourself that you have the ability to do this for another 4 years? That is a good fucking question. He's not going to answer it, but that is a good question.
Yes, I am, because, George, the last thing I want to do is not be able to meet that. I think...
Oh, fuck you. You don't give a fuck about that. If you know anything about Joe Biden, all he's ever cared about is his stupid fucking legacy at the expense of the fucking American people. He doesn't give a fuck about you. He doesn't give a fuck about me. The only person, he's just as narcissistic as fucking Trump, but less boisterous about it, I guess.
As some of the senior economists and senior foreign policy specialists say, if I stop now, I'd go down in history as a pretty successful president. No one thought I could get done what we got done.
Dude, what is this Trump-esque rhetoric? No one thought I could get done what I got done. Ugh.
But are you being honest with yourself as well about your ability to defeat Donald Trump right now?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
You say that, and let me challenge you.
Sure.
Because you were close, but behind going into the debate. You're further behind now, by any measure. It's been a two-man race for several months. Inflation has come down. In those last few months, he's become a convicted felon, yet you're still falling further behind.
Yeah, and the kicker is that it's not that Democrats are unpopular or like you know, liberalism or whatever, you know, progressive policy ideas or whatever are completely falling out of fashion in favor of, you know, hyper right-wing ones. No, the broad public, you know, liberals, Democrats, and even plenty of independents and undecided folk or whatever are supporting Democrats. Like, Democrats are winning elections or are polling extremely well. You know, in some places where Democrats are, like the Democrat who's running for Senate or the Democrat who's running for governor or whatever the fuck in like Michigan or something is polling 6, 7, 10 plus the Republican they're running against, right? Meanwhile, Biden in the same state, you know, with like a statewide election is polling 10 points below Donald Trump. And this is all over the fucking place. Senate Democrats outperforming Biden raises possibility of historic split ticket voting. Senate Democrats in key battleground states have consistently performed better than President Biden in polls, fueling speculation that November could see the highest levels of split ticketing in years, or ticket splitting in years. The relative polling strength of Democratic Senate candidates in states like Montana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania has suggested that at least some voters will back them while supporting Donald Trump or a non-Biden presidential candidate. A CBS News YouGov poll from last month of Arizona showed Biden down 5 points, and Republican Ruben Gallego, the likely Democratic nominee for the Senate, ahead of his GOP opponent Kari Lake by more than 10. So this guy's up 10 points on Kari Lake. Meanwhile, Biden is down 5 points against Trump in a May poll. Obviously, this is going to be worse now in July, post-debate. In Pennsylvania, Trump is leading Biden by 4 points, but the Democratic senator is leading the Republican by 4 points as well. So all this to say that Democrats are not doing poorly. It is just fucking Biden. And does he not see this? Does he not know this? Does he not care? I don't know which one's worse. Either way, it's all fucking bad.
You guys keep saying that. George, you know polling better than anybody. Do you think polling data is accurate as it used to be?
I don't think so, but I think when you look at all of the polling data right now, it shows that he's certainly ahead in the popular vote, probably even more ahead in the battleground states. And one of the other key factors there is it shows that in many of the battleground states,
this is bad, man. This is all bad. This is Twilight Zone, Black Mirror level bad. Hold on, I'm gonna take my sweater off. I know it's the middle of July, but it gets cold in my basement, okay?
Democrats who are running for Senate in the House are doing better than you are.
Well, that's not unusual in some states. I carried an awful lot of Democrats last time.
Sorry, let's rewind. I think he actually just said what I was just fucking talking about.
And one of the other key factors there is it shows that in many of the battleground states, the Democrats who are running for Senate in the House are doing better than you are.
Exactly.
Well, that's not unusual in some states. I carried an awful lot of Democrats last time I ran in 2020. Look, I remember them telling me the same thing in 2020. I can't win. The polls show I can't win. Remember 2020, the red wave was coming. Before the vote, I said that's not going to happen. We're going to win. We did better in an off year than almost any incumbent president ever has done. They said in 20...
Yes. Well, okay, there's so much to fucking unpack here, and he's doing just, I don't know what you want to call it, doublespeak, or he's just stupid, but look, the polls in 2020 had Biden and Trump pretty fucking close, and it turns out the election was pretty fucking close. Obviously, he blew him out of the water with the popular vote, but who gives a shit about that? In the states where it mattered, the battleground states, the 5 or so states that Biden had to win to beat Trump, he won those states by, relatively small margins, 30,000 votes, 50,000 votes. I think in some places even closer than that, right? And I think he was ahead in the polls during that time. And he still ended up winning, which is what we expected from the polling results. Now the polls have him way the fuck down. Not like neck and neck, not a little bit up, but way the fuck down. And when you're talking about margins like 10, 20, 30, 40,000 votes in those battleground states, suddenly the polling becomes extremely fucking important. And you can have a close poll and still lose. We saw that in 2016. Hillary was up, not like hugely up, but definitely up, and she still lost by those small margins in those battleground states. The same way Biden won small margins in battleground states, Trump won in 2016 small margins in those battleground states. Smaller margins than Biden's win, but still, relatively small. Both 2016 and 2020. But yeah, George is bringing up a good point. Like, the Democrats are popular right now. They're genuinely popular. They're scared of Trump. They're scared of 2025. There's Project 2025. They don't like the fucking bullshit the Republicans are doing now. But we also don't like you, for a number of reasons. He's doing what I would expect a typical kind of liberal Democrat to do. A lot of the reasons why libs don't like him feel contradictory or hypocritical to me. I don't care. What I'm really focusing on is like, yeah, you look like you have, a mental condition, and that's going to cause a lot of people to think you have a mental condition, which is going to cause people to not want to vote for you over fucking Donald Trump, who sounds like a lunatic, but is more coherent than Biden at this point. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling.
2023, all the tough races we're not going to win. I went into all those areas, all those...
Oh, And then the fucking red wave. I mean, in 2022, one, like, I guess the president is kind of on the ballot in that time, but he's not, like, really on the ballot, so it's not a one-to-one comparison. And we still lost the House. And I think we lost a Senate seat. So it wasn't a red wave, but it was definitely not, like, what you wanted, for sure. But now you are on the ballot, and now the Democrats are looking good in, you know, kind of every other race but the presidential race. So it seems like the common denominator is fucking you, Joe Biden.
Call those the districts, and we won.
All that is true, but 2020 was a close race. And your approval rating has dropped significantly since then. I think the last poll I saw was about 36%. The number of Americans who think you're too old to serve has doubled since 2020. Wouldn't a clear-eyed political calculus tell you that it's going to be much tougher to win in 2024?
George is fucking cooking him, and I love it, dude.
Not when you're running against a pathological liar. Not when he...
Brother, the polls have you down 10 points! So what are you fucking talking about?
He hadn't been challenged in a way that he's about to be challenged. Not when people...
You've had months to challenge him.
Oh, I sure had months, but I was also doing a hell of a lot of other things, like wars around the world, like keeping NATO together, like working... Anyway. But look, do you really believe you're not
We're
behind...
so fucked. Holy shit, dude. This can't be real. This can't be fucking real.
Right now?
I think it's all pollsters...
What'd he say?
Do you really believe you're not behind right now?
I think it's all the pollsters I talk to tell me it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. And when I'm behind, there's only one poll I'm really far behind. CBS poll and NBC, and...
New York Times and NBC both have you about 6 points behind in the popular vote.
That's exactly right.
In the popular vote. That is fucking wild. The Democrats have lost the popular vote to Republican, like, once in the last, like, fucking 30 years or something crazy, right? Hillary beat Trump in the popular vote. Biden demolished Trump in the popular vote. If he's down in the popular vote, like, huge alarm bells have got to be going off behind the scenes. And I've heard mixed things, like some are saying there are huge alarm bells, some are saying there aren't huge alarm bells. The consensus I've kind of discerned is this next week is going to be hugely important. So we'll see, but anyway.
New York Times had me behind before anything happened to do with this race. Had me behind 10 points. 10 points had me behind. Nothing's changed substantially in the debate, the New York Times poll.
Just when you look at the reality, though, Mr. President, I mean, you won the popular vote in 2020, but it was still deadly close in the Electoral
By
College.
7 million votes.
Yes, but you're behind now in the popular vote.
I don't buy that.
So because you just don't buy that, you're going to roll the fucking dice because you don't buy that. Thanks a lot, Biden. Thanks a fucking lot.
Is it worth the risk?
I don't think anybody's more qualified to be president or win this race than me.
You know, the heart of your case against Donald Trump.
That didn't answer his fucking question. He hasn't answered any of his fucking questions. This fucking slimy piece of fucking filth. Ugh.
Trump is that he's only out for himself, putting his personal interest ahead
Fuck
of the
these
national
pieces of
interest.
shit, dude.
How do you respond to critics who say that by staying in the race, you're doing the same thing?
Oh, come on. Well, I don't think those critics know what they're talking about.
They're just wrong?
It's wrong. Look, Trump is a pathological liar.
So are you, dog. I don't know what to say.
Trump is, he is... Have you ever seen anything Trump did that benefited somebody else, not him? You can't.
Man, I don't know if I've seen you do anything that benefits anyone that's not you at this point.
Answer, I know.
I've questioned him and his allies as persistently as any journalist has.
No, I know you have. I'm not being
Yeah.
critical.
Yeah.
I'm not being critical. But look, I mean, The man is a congenital liar. As I said, they pointed out in that debate he lied 28 times the times, or whatever number, over 20 times. Talk about how good his economy was, how he brought down inflation, how this is a guy who, unlike only other president other than him is Hoover, lost more jobs than he created. This is a guy who told us to put bleach in our arms to deal with COVID.
He's trying to hit these like greatest hit tracks, but I don't know. Are libs like losing their minds still at the like inject bleach in their arms thing? Is that hitting? If you're a lib watching this, is that like hitting for you? Is that enough to convince you? I don't know. Or just, do you think that's enough to convince others to vote for Biden over Trump at this point? Again, I want to emphasize, if he is on the ballot in November, I will be voting for the corpse of Joe Biden, and I will do it gladly. I just hope to God it does not get to that point, because he will lose, unquestionably, if he is on the ballot, in my opinion. There's very little that can dig Biden out of this grave, no pun intended. Last cycle, COVID really helped Biden. Trump getting COVID really helped Biden. I'm not sure how much of that was the kind of, divine intervention or whatever. I think Biden probably would have still beat Trump if those things didn't sort of happen at the very end. Kind of unlike what happened with Hillary with Comey, if you remember that, where I think that did actually destroy her campaign. But I think regardless of that happening, Biden probably beats Trump in 2020, maybe by closer margins. But right now, if the election happened today, Biden loses, and it's, I don't know, does he even win fucking California at this point? I don't fucking know. Anyway.
Over a million people died.
That was a joke.
This is a guy who talks about wanting to get rid of the healthcare provisions we put in place. This is a guy who wants to give the power back to big pharma to be able to charge exorbitant prices for drugs. This is a guy who wants to undo every single thing I've done. Every single thing.
I understand.
I mean, you want to undo every single thing he's done, right? Like, that should be a reasonable thing to expect the next, the opposite party to want to do. Although, obviously, Biden didn't do that. That's been one of the most frustrating things that, like, progressives and the left have harped Biden on, is his continuation of many of Trump's worst policy positions. Anyway.
And then I understand that's why you want to stay in the race, but have you convinced yourself that only you can defeat him?
I convinced myself of two things. I'm the most qualified person to beat him, and I know how to get things done.
If you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
It depends if the Lord Almighty comes out and tells me that, I might do that.
Well,
Yo. Jesus has the opportunity to do the funniest thing, man.
On a more practical level, Washington Post just reported in the last hour that Senator Mark Warner is assembling a group of senators together to try and convince you to stand down because they don't think you can win.
Well, Mark is a good man. We've never had that. He also tried to get the nomination too. Mark's not. Mark and I have a different perspective. I respect him.
And if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi come down and say, we're worried that if you stay in the race, we're going to lose the House and the Senate, how will you respond?
I go into detail with them. I've spoken to all of them in detail, including Jim Clyburn. Every one of them. They all said I should stay in the race. Stay in the race. None of the people said I should leave.
But if they do?
Well, it's like, they're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'd get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down. I mean, these hypotheticals, George, if...
I mean, as a Christian, don't you think he will come down eventually? Isn't that part of their lore? I don't know.
I mean, if all...
But it's not that hypothetical anymore. I grant that they have not requested the meeting, but it's been reported...
Well, I've met with them. I've met with a lot of these people. I've talked with them regularly. I had an hour conversation with Hakeem. I had more time than that with Jim Clyburn. I spent time with many hours off and on the last little bit with Chuck Schumer. It's not like I had all the governors. All the governors.
I agree that the Lord Almighty is not going to come down, but if you
Really?
are told reliably from your allies, from your friends and supporters in the Democratic Party, in the House and the Senate, that they're concerned you're going to lose the House and the Senate if you stay in, what will you do?
I'm not going to answer that question. It's not going to happen.
Dude, just answer the question. He's not answering any fucking question. Is he drooling? Man.
What's your plan to turn the campaign around?
You saw it today. How many people you get draw crowds like I drew today? You find many more enthusiastic than today? Huh?
I mean, I don't think you want to play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no.
Yeah, I was literally about to say. Dude's doing more Trump shit. He's like, dude, look at the crowds I drew. The fucking, yeah, you go to a major city, you can find 20, 30,000 Democrats to fill a stadium for the current sitting president. I'm sure you could do that. I mean, libs do this same thing with Trump that I fucking despise. Like it sort of hit in 2016 when he was more of an unknown. The like, I don't fucking know. Like, and did you look at his crowd size at that one rally he did? It didn't look that big. Or there was, oh, look, a Craigslist ad looking for people to fill Trump's stadium or something. It kind of hit in 2016, but then he got elected. Then he almost got elected again in 2020. But I still see libs on like Twitter and stuff hitting the same note. The like, actually, Trump isn't as popular as you think because he had a smaller, stadium, capacity or something. Meanwhile, Biden's doing the exact opposite and saying, dude, we're fine. I can fill a stadium. We're fine. No, man. And George is rightfully pushing back. George has done a pretty good job. I wish he pushed back maybe a little bit more, just a hair more than he's doing here. But overall, this has not been a complete, glazing like Fox News or one of those other fucking bullshit networks will do for Trump. You know what I mean? Anyway.
No question about that.
You can draw a big crowd, but what does he say? Who's he have? I'm the guy supposedly in trouble. We raised $38 million within 4 days after this. We have over 1 million individual contributors. Less than $200. I've not seen what you're proposing.
You haven't seen the fall off in the polls. You haven't seen the reports of discontent in the Democratic Party, House Democrats, Senate Democrats.
I've seen it from the press.
Again, this feels more Trumpy. Like, the press is lying. The press is making me look bad. Like, the press in this scenario, they're getting intentional leaks from high-profile Democrats and their staffers and whatnot. The press is not making this shit up, especially at, like, this level. You know what I mean? They're not just making shit up. When they're reporting on it this way, that means there is real fucking smoke to the fire. Okay? And for Joe Biden to just completely disregard that, like he's fucking Donald Trump, is incredibly frustrating to me. I cannot tell you how much I fucking despise this guy. And yes, I will still vote for him in November, because it's the pragmatic thing to do, I guess, but Jesus Christ.
I've heard from dozens of your supporters over the last few days, and a variety of views, I grant you that. But the prevailing sentiment is this. They love you, and they will be forever grateful to you for defeating Donald Trump in 2020. They think you've done a great job as president, a lot of the successes you outlined. But they are worried about you and the country, and they don't think you can win. They want you to go with grace, and they will cheer you if you do. What do you say to them?
I say the vast majority are not where those folks are. I don't doubt there's some folks there. Have you ever seen a group at time when elected officials running for office aren't a little worried? Have you ever seen that? I've not. Same thing happened in 2020. Oh, Biden, I don't know, man. What's he going to do? He may bring me down. He may.
Mr. President, I've never seen a president at 36% approval get reelected.
Well, I don't believe that's my approval rate. That's not what our polls show.
And
Bro's got alternative polls. I think I have a new perspective on this. I think, okay, new headcanon, okay? And this is headcanon. New headcanon. He did get all the calls. Every single one of them. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, et al. Down the line, right? And they all said, dude, you gotta step down. It's time. Go with grace, whatever the fuck. We will slobber all over you, glaze you to the end of time. We will say you were the greatest president of all time and you did everything you needed in one term. You didn't even need a second term. We will do whatever you want, okay? But please step down. And Joe Biden said no. And so the press can kind of do what they're doing. The New York Times can get the editorial board together. They can release these articles. They can do all this. The party line can't really do that. If in private conversations they told Biden, dude, you have to step down right now, and Biden says, I will not do that, the Democrats can't just all come out in public and say, look, we all hate Joe Biden and he has to step down. It'll make them all look worse. And then they're guaranteed to lose. Even if Biden then, after they publicly come out, if Biden then steps down and then they hire and, get a new nominee, it'll have looked so fucking bad that it'll be too late. Like people won't want that nominee either. So I think that's what's going on here. That's the scenario that kind of makes the most sense to me because no one is seeing this. Even Nancy Pelosi with her own mashed potato brains, no one is seeing this and thinking this is okay. No matter what he says was discussed on these calls, I just don't believe it. I think they said step down. I think he said no. And I think that they all said, well, okay, you're not going to step down. We will back you, I guess. And here we are. Now, we do have one more chance. The donors. And that is what this, like I said, this week will be about. We're going to see this week. But if nothing's done by Friday, July 15th or whatever, he will probably be the nominee. But this will be a very interesting week.
if you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about. Look, George.
That's what this is about? Giving it your all, your college try. It's not about what the polls say, what the press is saying, what Democrats are saying behind closed doors, or what the public feels and thinks. All that matters is Joe Biden tried his very best. Wow. Absolutely fucking stunner of an answer.
Think of it this way. You've heard me say this before. I think the United States and the world is at an inflection point where the things that happen in the next several years are going to determine what the next 6-7 decades look like. And who's going to be able to hold NATO together like me? Who's going to be able to be in a position where I'm able to keep...
Another Democrat? Like, what? Does he think he's the fucking savior or something, man? What is this, like, complete and utter savior complex? This narcissism that, again, if you've been following Joe Biden, this is just who he is. But seeing it on full display here is just, it's kind of wild, For all the, way libs called Trump a narcissist, he definitely is and stuff, but he's a lot more vocal about it. But Biden's right there with him, man. Like, this is an absolutely bonkers answer to this question from George.
the Pacific Basin in a position where we're at least checkmating China now. Who's gonna do that?
We're at least checkmating China. Who's gonna do that? This guy literally thinks he's the greatest president ever. It's insane.
Who has that reach? Who knows all these? We're gonna have, I guess, a good way to judge me is you're gonna have now the NATO conference here in the United States next week. Come listen. See what they say.
Mr. President, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
ABC News also offered a one-on-one interview to Donald Trump after the debate. He declined.
I guess that's
Let's bring
it.
in our political team for what they're hearing. Let me start out with our chief.
Okay, I guess that's it. Well, this did not quell my worries that Joe Biden's brains have, morphed into a pile of mashed potatoes. It hasn't qualmed my worry that Joe Biden is a horrific narcissist that just shouldn't be president in general. Look, that isn't to say, there haven't been things that I've liked from this administration. He has been, and this is a low bar, pretty pro-labor, but that aside, he's an awful person. Him staying in running is just awful. And he still seems like he has a severe medical condition, in my opinion. How Congress donors are reacting to Biden's interview. Okay, let's check this out.
President Biden and our ABC News exclusive interview.
Yeah, the Biden campaign reaching out earlier this week, agreeing to sit down on Friday in Madison, Wisconsin for the president's first broadcast interview since last week's debate.
George Stephanopoulos taping the interview yesterday, airing in prime time with no cuts, no edits. The interview lasted 20.
The fact that we have to specify that is a problem on its own. Like, that is a issue on its own that we need to be like, look, we did not cut it to make Biden look more coherent. We swear this is just who he is. You know what I mean?
22 minutes. And in case you missed it, here are portions of that conversation.
Okay, we just heard it, so I don't want to play it back. Let's get the analysis.
Ability to defeat Donald Trump a second time.
What? Tell me how the donors are reacting.
The goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about.
That's what this is about. Where is this?
Offered a one-on-one interview to Donald Trump following the debate, but the former president declined. Now let's bring in ABC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang for some reaction here. Selena, good morning. So what's next for the Biden campaign?
Yeah, Whit, well, the president is defiant. You heard them there in the interview. He is plowing ahead with his campaign despite growing panic in his own party. Donors and allies told me that the president did not do enough to stop the panic, and in fact, for some, it made things even worse. I'm told by a source that a group of donors are trying to raise as much as $100 million to support a candidate that would replace President Biden. And last night, Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, a major Democratic donor, said that the president is, quote, unfortunately in denial about his mental state. But look, the Biden team tells me that the president's performance was strong and solid, that he proved his record over the last 3.5 years on the economy and foreign policy. Their view is that Biden has never been a great public speaker, but he did get his message across.
Bro, YouTube exists. Anyone can look up Biden 2021, Biden 2017, Biden whatever, and just compare that to now. And just the difference. It's night and day, man.
The president will also be out there more aggressively in public in the coming days. He's going to be hosting the NATO summit next week, giving a press conference, and tomorrow he's doing a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. Now, voters at that Wisconsin rally yesterday did tell me they felt reassured by the president's stronger performance, but many are still deeply concerned about his ability to defeat Donald Trump. And the very optimistic spin coming from the White House, it is only fueling concerns for many Democrats that the president is being shielded from reality by his inner circle. Whit.
And George Stephanopoulos' interview with President Biden will air again on this week's Sunday, along with more analysis from our Powerhouse Roundtable.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the interview. For me, yeah, it made Biden look worse. Not just because it did not, reassure me that his mental faculties are all there, but the fact that he is so, I don't know, narcissistic in his own head. He thinks he's the guy or whatever the fuck. he can draw crowds in, you know, Wisconsin or whatever. It did not at all make me think this guy should be our nominee. Not in 2020 and definitely not now. And yet, I encourage you to vote for Joe Biden if he's on the ticket in November. Anyway, that's the video.